I had been married to Ethan for 10 years, and we had an agreement to live our own lives without interfering with each other. He had his companions, and I had my secret confidant. I thought our days would continue in this lukewarm manner, until I met a younger man who touched my heart. He wanted nothing from me, only to be with me. I was moved, and that very night, I asked Ethan for a divorce. Ethan, however, was furious. His eyes were bloodshot as he spoke each word clearly into my ear. "Nina, you will never get a divorce from me in this lifetime." Chapter 1. Today, I spent half the day hiking with my young companion and spent the night counting stars. Young people really have too much energy. Exhausted, I dragged my tired body home, planning to catch up on some sleep. As soon as I got out of the car, I spotted Ethan's petite secretary struggling to support him. Her smug expression was impossible to hide. She couldn't conceal her childishness. She wasn't exactly a mistress. With Ethan's many women, I had lost count of how many there were. "Nina, Mr. Ethan got drunk while protecting me from drinking too much tonight," she said, emphasizing protecting me in a high-pitched voice. "I need to borrow your kitchen, Nina. Mr. Ethan loves the hangover soup I make. Every time he drinks too much, he insists I make it for him personally," she added, blushing as she glanced at Ethan. "He says that seeing me and having my soup sobers him right up." I found her childish claim of territory amusing. She was young, and I felt no desire to compete with her. I smiled and took Ethan from her hands, saying lightly, "Thanks for your hard work." With such a diligent employee, I feel reassured. Ethan has always treated his employees well. Your predecessor was also great at making hangover soup. It's getting late. Maybe you can make it next time. Lena's earlier smugness faded, revealing a hint of dissatisfaction. I didn't want to argue, so I gently pushed her out and closed the door. I turned to find Ethan sprawled on the sofa, eyes half closed. After a moment, I said, "Everyone's gone, who are you still pretending for?" Ethan stretched his long legs across the sofa, his voice steady, devoid of drunkenness. "Thanks. Lena's been spoiled by me. She's been acting out lately, always getting jealous. I thought I'd give her some space, so she understands her place." I chose not to respond. Over the years, Ethan and I had been living our separate lives. The women around him changed like the seasons, never lasting more than 6 months. His affections were like summer butterflies, beautiful yet fleeting, never settling on one flower. I once thought I was special, that I was different from the rest. But I wasn't. After just 3 years of marriage, he couldn't resist wandering. Lena was different though. Maybe Ethan really liked her. He was usually impatient with women. There had been others he adored, but when they became jealous, he simply sent them away with a generous breakup fee. This time, he was just giving her the cold shoulder. He must really like her. In the past, I might have thrown fits, cried endlessly, making Ethan's life miserable. But now, I was used to it. I clearly stated my purpose. "Ethan, let's get a divorce." Finally, Ethan opened his eyes and looked at me in disbelief, letting out a cold laugh. "Nina, I can't even remember how many years it's been since you last mentioned divorce. What's wrong now? You do your thing and I do mine. Haven't we been fine?" He lazily sat up, grabbed a ceramic teacup from the coffee table, and poured 2 cups of green tea. He sniffed the tea aroma, speaking leisurely. "I was wrong today. I shouldn't have let her come to our house. I'll be careful next time. You won't see her again." He handed me the tea as he spoke. I ignored him, walked to the coffee table, opened a drawer, and pulled out a divorce agreement. "I want a divorce. I have someone else." Chapter 2. Ethan took a leisurely sip of tea and set the cup back on the table. His expression still showed disbelief, as if he couldn't fathom that I would dare to divorce him. He casually picked up the divorce agreement, flipping through it a few times. Suddenly, his smile vanished, replaced by a serious demeanor. "If there's a problem, you can talk to my lawyer," he said, his gaze lingering on the document, radiating a palpable sense of pressure. After a moment, he looked up, his sharp eyes fixed on me. I felt a bit uneasy under his intense stare. "Nina, do you really want a divorce?" Maybe he thought I was crying wolf again. Back in the early years of his infidelity, I couldn't accept it at all. Whenever he came home, I would confront him, leading to one-sided, hysterical arguments. Eventually, I accepted his betrayal, trying to win him back through tears, tantrums, and threats of divorce. He eventually grew tired of it and agreed, but I clung to him, unwilling to visit the Civil Affairs Bureau. But this time was different. I truly wanted a divorce. "Nina, I don't know what you're scheming," he said. "I admit I like Lena, but I promise we're just having fun. You're still my wife. So, be generous and stop making a fuss, okay?" His voice was cold, and I could detect a hint of disdain. He thought I was throwing a tantrum because of Lena. When he first started seeing her, I did make a scene. I went crazy, arguing and smashing everything valuable and worthless in the house, uttering the most hurtful things to him. I even threatened to sell the company's latest patents to competitors if he didn't break up with her. I did many extreme and foolish things, but nothing changed. The outcome was that he wanted a divorce. We almost went through with it, but I backed out at the Civil Affairs Bureau. I used to be hopelessly in love, to the point where I now want to strangle my past self. "I really want a divorce," I said, meeting Ethan's gaze with a calm smile. "My boy has said he wants to be with me. Openly and legally." Chapter 3. Ethan's brow furrowed, and he seemed momentarily stunned. I could see a hint of sadness in his eyes. No matter how much I had acted up over the years, he never seemed to care. "Nina, stop being so childish. You're 30 now, don't you know better?" Yes, being 30 can't compete with the youthful energy of 20-somethings. Besides, Ethan had never considered any girl over 25. I didn't need him to remind me of my age. "Yeah, I'm 30, but I want a fresh start. This time, I'm really letting go and giving you your freedom, Ethan." Ethan fell silent. The soft, warm light highlighted his face, accentuating his sculpted features. He was truly handsome. Time had been kind to him, bestowing upon him the mature charm unique to successful men. He unconsciously rubbed his thumb with his index finger, a habit he had when deep in thought. After a few seconds, he spoke. "Is it that boy I saw with you at the cinema last time?" I nodded. Luke often told me I was too reserved, that it might make me sick. He had dragged me to see a horror movie, and I ended up clinging to him the entire time. I was still shaken when we ran into Ethan and Lena afterward. Judging by their movie choice, they must have watched the latest popular romance. Luke greeted Ethan with a smile, but Ethan's expression showed his displeasure, though he didn't say anything. After all, we had agreed not to interfere in each other's lives, and we had both stuck to that unspoken rule for years. Thinking of Luke lifted my spirits. Today, he had taken me shopping to help him pick out a tie. He didn't find a tie, but he did spot a diamond ring. I was completely taken by surprise when he knelt down on one knee, looking genuinely sincere. "Nina, marry me. I'm serious. The ring might be a bit small, but I couldn't wait. Let's get married first, and we can upgrade the ring later. I don't want to see you sad. I love seeing you smile. Marry me, and every day will be happy." Luke's handsome face drew the attention of onlookers. Even the sales clerk nearby wore an expression of admiration and envy. I looked at the 1-carat ring he held, sparkling brilliantly. I felt a rush of emotion. My life had been so gray in recent years, like a suffocating fog. Luke's bright eyes held such sincerity and passion that they felt almost scorching. Yes, in that moment, I was moved. I was touched by Luke's sincerity and courage. I wanted to embrace a new life, one without Ethan. Chapter 4. I once thought I would be entangled with Ethan for the rest of my life. From 15 to 30, he had been part of half my existence. Over the years, he came home less and less. When I did see him, I would initially lose control and argue. Eventually, my love burned out, and I learned to be silent. I only saw the Ethan who loved me in my dreams. In those dreams, he was still the boy who had eyes only for me. but upon waking, I returned to a stark reality. In the vast villa, I was alone, slowly withering away. So, I agreed to live our own lives and never brought up divorce again. Luke revived my nearly dead heart. With him, I felt genuine happiness, a serene joy radiating from within. Luke gave me the courage to start anew, and with him, I dared to try and change. I agreed to be with him. I said softly, smiling. To be with him openly and honorably. Then what about your promise to me? We agreed to live our own lives. I don't agree to a divorce. Ethan frowned, questioning me. I found it amusing. He was the one who had broken our vows. How could he say such shameless things? I lost my patience. Did you ask for my opinion when you cheated? So today, when I ask for a divorce, I'm not seeking your permission. I hope the divorce process can be quick. He and I can't wait. As soon as I finished speaking, Ethan froze, his grip on the teacup tightening, the veins on his hand bulging. His eyes flashed coldly, as if he might smash the cup any second. He sneered. I used to think you were just stubborn. I didn't expect you to be foolish too. What can that young boy give you? What can he afford? He stared at the 1-carat diamond ring on my finger, continuing. Such a small ring, and he proposes with that? He seemed to forget that when he proposed to me, he was even poorer than Luke is now, and his ring was smaller too. When we got married, the company was just starting to take off. Ethan later replaced my ring with a 10-carat diamond, but what did it matter? A ring couldn't keep him or his heart. I want a divorce, Ethan. Let's free each other and start new lives. Before I could finish, he smashed the cup onto the ground, the beautiful pattern shattering into pieces. Ethan strode over, gripping my arms painfully. I struggled to break free. You have no right. I don't love you anymore, and you don't love me either. You can have all the houses, I only want 30% of the company shares. I don't want to waste any more time on you. I turned my head to avoid looking into his eyes, focusing instead on the shattered ceramic pieces on the floor. My words seemed to infuriate him. He yanked me and threw me onto the sofa, his face twisted with rage. Then his body pressed down on mine, his hand pulling my nightgown down. Ethan glanced at my exposed skin, his eyes filled with something primal. I raised my hand to slap him, but he caught it, pinning it above my head. He kissed me forcefully, invading my mouth with his unfamiliar scent, while his other hand slid down my body, stopping at my lower back. In that moment, I felt a wave of disgust. I kicked him in the groin and pushed him away, frantically wiping my lips to erase Ethan's presence. He seemed stunned, staring at me in silence, his eyes bloodshot. After a long pause, he finally spoke. We agreed to live our own lives and never mention divorce. Have you forgotten? Nina, you will never get a divorce from me. Chapter 5. Thinking about Ethan's forced kiss earlier made me feel disdained. I spent 2 hours in the bathroom before coming out. While drying my hair, Luke called. His gentle voice came through the phone. Did you miss me today? No. I replied honestly, having spent the day dealing with lawyers about property division. I missed you. No matter how complicated the divorce is, I'll wait for you. Even though he couldn't see me, I nodded. Okay. Let me sing you a song. His low, soothing voice flowed through the phone, like a glass of wine with a hint of mint, rich in oak flavor, lingering. My baby, give you something sweet. To make your night peaceful. My little ghost, tease your brows. To make you love this world. La 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 la, my baby. All the unpleasantness with Ethan faded away. Luke's singing was incredibly soothing. I had a dream that night, returning to the moment Ethan proposed. We were 22, still in the early stages of our startup. I was out running errands, and he was entertaining clients. We worked hard toward our shared dreams, enduring many hardships. Sometimes we wouldn't speak for a week, but that time was the happiest of my life. He had gone on a business trip and missed my birthday. On my 22nd birthday night, I was working late at the office. At 11, Ethan unexpectedly returned, holding my favorite cherry-flavored cake. He appeared before me without warning, the flickering candlelight dancing on our faces, our love warming the night. After blowing out the candles, I closed my eyes and made a wish. No matter if we are rich or poor, I just hope Ethan and Nina can be together forever. When I opened my eyes, Ethan was kneeling, holding a ring with a tiny diamond. I was so moved that tears filled my eyes. Ethan smiled, his brows relaxed. "Nina, I love you. Marry me." The next moment, the scene shifted to us arguing again, this time about his secretary. I was crying hysterically. "Why are you doing this to me? Why? You said Ethan would protect Nina forever. You said it yourself." The heartache was palpable. Even in my dream, I felt the pain of my heart being seared. I went to the beach, determined to end my life. The cool seawater lapped at my knees as I continued to walk forward. Since Ethan didn't want me, nothing mattered anymore. The water finally covered my nose, filling my mouth with salty, slightly bitter seawater. My consciousness began to blur. In the haze, I heard Luke's frantic voice. "Nina, you silly woman. Nina, don't sleep. Wake up, please." Chapter 6. When I opened my eyes, the first thing I saw was the blue starry chandelier. Luke was my friend's brother. Once, when we had planned to have dinner together, she brought him along. Luke was tall and slim, with delicate features. I remembered my friend always liked this type of college guy. I half-jokingly asked, "Is this your new boy? Good taste." Lucy explained. "He's my younger brother. He's a senior in college." Luke extended his hand, his face flushed with embarrassment. "Nice to meet you. I'm Luke." I laughed at his shy expression. "Nice to meet you too. I'm Nina." We exchanged WeChat info and got to know each other. Luke's family owned a fish pond in a quiet, scenic area surrounded by mountains and trees, a perfect summer getaway. One afternoon, we bought fishing gear and went there to fish. My friend had just cast her line when she got called away for work. Alone, I couldn't help but think of Ethan. We had known each other since high school and had been together for so many years, going through so much. It was hard not to think of him. Sometimes I wondered if Ethan thought of me when he was with other women. We had shared most of our firsts together, how could he accept anyone else? Lost in thought, I didn't notice the fishing line twitching. Luke approached from behind, his long fingers overlapping mine as he pulled, reeling in a lotus fish. "Do you know how to grill fish?" Then I'll treat you to grilled fish, okay?" As the sky darkened, a warm evening breeze gently blew. I sat on a rock, watching Luke grill the fish. He carefully turned it to ensure it cooked evenly. The dancing flames highlighted his handsome profile. Luke's gaze shifted from the fish to me, he stared for a couple of seconds before speaking. "Nina, you look so ugly when you frown. You should smile more." I turned away. "Do I frown often? I never noticed. Nina, do you know you look like an old lady?" Luke stopped grilling. The moonlight cast a soft glow on his delicate features, while cicadas chirped in the background. His gaze was intense. "Even though you look young on the outside, inside you're lifeless. You're just waiting for time to pass, hoping to quickly become an old lady. You're torturing yourself. Nina, I like you. Why don't you give us a try?" I thought he was joking, so I didn't take him seriously. Later, Luke started pursuing me aggressively, inviting me to meals, taking me to movies, always choosing horror films to make me cling to him through the entire show. When I was upset, he would sing to cheer me up. He often tricked me into going to his resort, teaching me how to ski. Only then did I realize this kid was serious. Of course, I couldn't ruin his future, so I candidly told him about my situation. To my surprise, Luke already knew. "Your husband changes women like clothes. He doesn't care about you. Nina, whether you like me or not, for your own sake, you should get a divorce." Should I get a divorce? For myself? Chapter 7. Since I mentioned divorce to Ethan, he hadn't come home for 2 weeks. I didn't want to wait another second. I had my personal lawyer contact Ethan to discuss it. Lena called me around that time. She said in a high-pitched voice, "Nina, Mr. Ethan was really upset when you mentioned divorce. Nina, you are very important to Mr. Ethan. I've persuaded him to talk things out with you. You must have misunderstood each other." "What a strategy," I sneered. "Who are you calling sister? My parents only have one daughter. Where did this shameless sister come from?" She was taken aback, clearly angry. "Nina, don't be ungrateful. No wonder Mr. Ethan says you're boring. Ethan pities you, that's why he won't divorce you. He stopped loving you a long time ago." I laughed, finding it amusing. "I don't care for a man who doesn't respect himself. If you want him, you can have him. If you value him, he's yours. You crazy woman, you." I hung up before she could finish. If she wanted to provoke me, she should know her place. That afternoon, Ethan, who had been away on a 2-week business trip, came home. I was about to ask him how he felt about the divorce when he threw his phone in front of me, full of anger. "What's this about?" Confused, I looked at the screen. The bold headline read, "High society couple living separate lives. Ethan's wife allegedly dating a younger man, possibly pregnant." The accompanying photo showed me in a hospital bed with Luke beside me, peeling an apple. It was from when I had surgery for acute gastritis. Luke had pushed work at the resort aside to take care of me for a week. A paparazzo must have snapped the photo. At the time, Ethan was on vacation in another country with Lena, so I didn't tell him. Even if he knew, he wouldn't have cared. I had already lost hope in him, he didn't love me anymore, and I wouldn't humiliate myself by disturbing them. I was hospitalized, and Luke took care of me. You were probably admiring cherry blossoms in Japan with Lena then. Ethan looked stunned, then asked, "So, you let this boy take care of you? Nina, stop seeing him. What about you? Can you fire Lena?" I retorted. He fell silent, his dark eyes fixed on mine. After a moment, he spoke. "If I fire Lena, will you not divorce me?" His tone was so sure, as if I would definitely agree. Hearing his answer didn't make me happy. I used to think that without Lena, Ethan would come back to me. But if it wasn't Lena, there would be someone else. Young, pure, and beautiful girls would always be there. I realized the problem wasn't with the girls, it was that Ethan couldn't resist temptation. He was tired of me and wanted something new. He was like a born sailor, never settling at one port. I calmly met his eyes and said slowly, "I don't love you anymore. No matter what, I will divorce you." Ethan was too confident. He thought a simple gesture would make me come back. He was too self-assured. I no longer loved him. Living under the same roof with him made me feel sick. "It's better for both of us to divorce. Isn't that what you wanted?" He suddenly raised his voice, shouting from behind me, "You're giving up on 10 years of our relationship for a young boy. Is it worth it?" I walked to the coffee table, picking up the Maserati keys. "He's more worth it than you." Then I turned to leave for my other house. Ethan grabbed my right hand, his voice low. I knew this meant he was angry. "Where are you going?" "To meet him." I pried his fingers off one by one and walked out of the villa. "Nina, do you have a heart? What do you want? You can't see him anymore." His yelling echoed in the living room. I ignored his angry cries and walked out the front door. Just as I reached my other villa, Luke called, asking where I was. He said he knew who had sold the photos to the media. Chapter 8. I didn't need Luke to investigate, I already knew who it was. 10 minutes later, Luke arrived, looking concerned. His first words were, "Nina, I've taken care of those false reports. Don't let them get to you. Why didn't you call me sister?" He seemed surprised by my question, pausing for a moment before smiling, his lips forming a perfect arc. "Because in my heart, you're more than just a sister. But if you like it, I'll call you that. There was a loud knock on the door, accompanied by Ethan's shouting. Nina, why did you bring him to our house? If I hadn't followed you, what were you planning to do? Luke blocked me and opened the door. Ethan stormed in, his face a mask of rage. What are you two doing here? Luke didn't back down. Why don't you control your girlfriend? Selling photos to the media and fabricating stories. Ethan walked towards me, speaking urgently. Nina, I fired Lena. Please, don't be mad at me. His voice was pleading and panicked. I hadn't seen him like this in years. In the 3rd year of our marriage, I found lipstick marks on his shirt that didn't match any of mine. Tears streamed down my face as I questioned him. He had the same guilty, panicked look, begging for my forgiveness. He knelt, swearing he had just been with a client, thinking only of me. The second time, he smelled of another woman's perfume and unmistakable orange scent. He couldn't have missed it. I screamed and cried, asking if he no longer loved me. He looked innocent, saying, I was drunk. The girl looked like you. Nina, you're the only one I love. The 3rd time, I caught him in a KTV room with a girl. I wanted to slap him but held back. After that, he stopped pretending. It's all those girls throwing themselves at me. I don't like them. It's just an act. Nina, you have to understand me. He wanted me to understand him, and then he started staying out all night. Then came Lena. He said he liked her spirit, how she reminded him of me. How ridiculous. I wasn't dead. He didn't love me, so why find a younger version of me? The kiss marks on him hurt my eyes, making me shut them in despair. The pain felt like someone branding my heart with a hot iron. Chapter 9. I looked at Ethan, tall, handsome, and wealthy. No wonder I loved him for so many years. I once thought he was mine alone. Past memories resurfaced, pure and beautiful but ultimately fading away. I knew there was no going back. I told Ethan, I don't trust you anymore. You've lied too many times. He grabbed me, his eyes bloodshot. Who do you trust him? His grip left red marks on my arm. I tried to pull away. Luke held Ethan's arm, saying, Can't you see her arm is swollen? No wonder she doesn't like you. Luke's words seemed to enrage Ethan. He punched Luke, who retaliated, and they started fighting. I stepped in, pulling Luke behind me. Ethan's eyes were filled with sadness as he saw my action. I said coldly, Leave, Ethan. I've never asked you for anything. Just one thing, sign the divorce papers quickly. Ethan stared at me for a long time, his voice trembling. Nina, do you really not want me anymore? I went to get the first aid kit. Ethan watched as I tended to Luke's injuries. Luke whispered, Nina, it really hurts. Ethan, I'm hurt too. Don't you care at all? Ethan cried. I had never seen him cry, except once at our wedding when he teared up, saying, I finally married the love of my life. Loving me was real, and so was not loving me now. How pathetic. Ethan slumped on the sofa, looking defeated. Are you really going to let him stay here? Don't forget this is my house. I was dressing Luke's wounds when he said, I can't leave tonight. He glanced at Ethan and continued, There are plenty of rooms here. Maybe I should just. Ethan charged at him again. I stopped him. Ethan, we're almost done. We're better apart. Please. Ethan choked up, wanting to say something but remained silent. He left, looking dejected. Luke said, Nina, there's no such thing as a reformed playboy, only a temporary rest. You should love someone who is inherently good, like me. Chapter 10. The next day, I went to the company to handle the shares. I decided to sell my shares, cutting all ties with Ethan. In the elevator, I ran into Lena. She was carrying a large box, her eyes swollen, mascara smudging her face, looking lost and defeated. People around us whispered, their faces mocking. Lena had relied on Ethan's favor, growing arrogant without improving her skills, lording over the company. Everyone had tolerated her long enough. Now that Ethan no longer protected her, she was nothing. Outside the elevator, she looked at me with a twisted face, shouting, "Do you think Ethan won't divorce you because he loves you? He just doesn't want you to take his money. Ethan said he loves me and doesn't care about you." I looked at the girl who resembled me. When she first joined the company, I was still active. She worked diligently, full of ambition. She once told me over coffee, "Nina, I want to be an independent woman like you." But that ambitious girl was gone, turned into a caged bird by Ethan. It was sad. I found it laughable. "Lena, you've changed. You've become a caged bird. But remember, a bird's fate is in its owner's hands. Instead of worrying about me, think about yourself. I wish you the best. At 30, Ethan can't love you. Don't be so smug." She screamed like a madwoman ready to pull my hair. I stepped back. Ethan emerged from the elevator, harshly grabbing her hands. "What are you doing? Stay away from Nina." Lena looked shocked, tearfully pleading. "Ethan, you won't abandon me, right? I'll behave. I won't disturb Nina anymore. Don't leave me alone, I'm scared." I didn't want to watch their drama and turned to leave. Ethan pushed Lena aside to chase me. "I've always loved Nina. If you come near her again, I'll take back the $2 million compensation." How ironic. After 3 years of pampering, he said he didn't love her. Maybe Ethan loved no one but himself. He wanted different women to bring different experiences. It took me 15 years to see him clearly. Luke was right, I should love someone inherently good. Chapter 11. Leaving the company, Ethan caught up with me, grabbing my hand. "Nina, let's talk. Unless it's about divorce, there's nothing to talk about." I shook off his hand. "I'll agree to the divorce." Ethan took me to a restaurant we frequented in college, known for its crab. I loved crab, and Ethan used to shell them for me. Back then, we were poor. Ethan worked part-time at the restaurant and did tutoring. He was always busy. I told him, "I'd rather have time with you than eat crab." He replied, "Who said it's for you? I just like shelling crabs." Later, when we could afford the best crab, he never shelled them for me again. "When will you sign the papers? Nina, remember this place?" Ethan's eyes were sad. Could he feel pain too? "If it's not about divorce, don't waste my time." I stood to leave. He grabbed my hand, pleading, "Nina, live with me for a month. Just us. Give us a chance." Did he think a month could change my mind? I scoffed. "It's useless, Ethan. There's no going back." Over the years, I gave him many chances, and he squandered them. Crying and begging now was too late. Ethan's eyes lit up. "You're afraid, Nina? You still love me, right?" To finalize the divorce, I agreed to 1 month. "During this time, you can't force me to do anything I don't like. After a month, you must agree to the divorce." Ethan's face brightened as if he had received a priceless treasure. "Nina, remember this place?" The owner recognized us, saying he couldn't believe we were still together. We used to rent a top-floor apartment with no air conditioning. In summer, we planted flowers on the balcony and set up a tent. When we couldn't sleep, I'd hold you and watch old movies. Nina, that was the happiest time of my life. I wish I could go back and tell my younger self not to let go of the best girl in the world. Ethan reminisced, his face showing longing. I felt bored. I had replayed these moments countless times during sleepless nights. I used to hope they could make him stay, but they didn't. A month passed quickly. Today was the last day. Ethan came home early, making an elaborate dinner with candles and a bouquet of roses. He took out a necklace worth millions. Only then did I remember today was our 10th wedding anniversary. He held the necklace, trying to put it on me. I turned away. It's too expensive. I can't accept it. He froze, looking sorrowful. Nina, give us one more chance. Haven't we been getting along well this month? I couldn't tell if he was pretending or genuinely didn't understand. I no longer loved him. The Nina who loved Ethan was destroyed by him. Ethan, I don't love you. I can't forget you with other women. You promised. Tomorrow morning, we'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Ethan sighed, composing himself, and said calmly, Nina, grant me one last request. Have dinner with me. He poured wine for both of us and said, Nina, I'm sorry. I know I don't deserve to say I love you. After tomorrow, I can't be with you. No matter who you're with, you'll be happy. You're amazing, and I didn't cherish you. I know I made you cry, causing your eye condition. I can't undo the harm. But I want you to know I love you. You're the only woman I've ever loved. I hope you're happy. Please, don't hate me. Hearing this, I wanted to slap him. Too little, too late. I downed my wine. I won't hate you. A woman in love hates a man. I don't love you, so why hate you? Ethan. His voice trembled, tears streaming down his face. Chapter 13. The next day, we went to the Civil Affairs Bureau, and Ethan signed the divorce papers as promised. Outside, Ethan smiled, saying, If that boy treats you badly, come back to me. I glanced at him, smiling too. Not everyone is like you. There is true love in the world. He put his arm around my shoulder jokingly. Yes, I'm despicable, so I think others are too. If everyone were like you, the world would be wonderful. Luke was waiting in the car. Ethan saw him and patted my shoulder. Go on, your young boyfriend is waiting. I walked to the black Maybach, looking back once before getting in. The red glow cast long shadows, stretching with distance. At the next corner, he turned left and disappeared from view. The fleeting glimpse of youth's end left us both in the mundane. The moon I reached for wasn't mine, though its light once brightened my world. He will move on to the next part of his life, and I will pursue my passion. A year later, I married Luke. Ethan didn't attend but sent a generous gift. He was in Argentina, calling on my wedding day, the backdrop a vast waterfall. Standing before the waterfall, soaked but unfazed, he said, Nina, I've come to see the Iguazu Falls you wanted to see. Long ago, I told him. If you ever wrong me, take me to the world's end to see the Iguazu Falls. Maybe I'll forgive you. He asked. What if you don't come? I replied. It means I don't want to forgive you. The screen showed the roaring waterfall, mist rising. Ethan whispered. Nina, happy wedding. You'll be happy, I won't say more. I whispered back in my heart. Ethan, I wish you happiness. Luke called from a distance. Honey, come for a family photo. Wait, your dress is long. I'll come to get you. The phone screen had long gone dark. I didn't know when Ethan ended the call. I sighed, feeling a tear fall as I rubbed my eye. Some people are meant to be a beautiful chapter in your life, then become a distant memory. I'm grateful for our meeting, but it's time to let go. Ethan, this time, we will be happy.